welcome to another episode of Collider Jedi Council. I am Christian Harloff, aka Darth Harloff, and this is the show where we talk everything Star Wars. Very, very fun, very, very special episode today. I'd like to address the council right off the bat. First, you know him, he's back, Mark 2D2, Mark Ellis. What's up, brother?
That's right. It's so good to be back. I want to thank all the fans of Jedi Council at Linden State College in Vermont. That's why I had to miss last week, but there's a bunch of them that showed up, and they love stand-up as much as they love Star Wars. Thank you, kids.
Well, right next to him, he is Obi-Jon Kenobi, John Campea. Hello, John.
Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to this nondescript, very average, nothing out of the ordinary episode of Jedi Council.
Yes, there's nothing happening today on the show except that we today have a full council, and he's got the most props on the council because he's an actual Jedi. He is Kanan. That's right, Kanan. Freddie Prinze Jr. is here.
Yes!
Finally, we got him. Welcome to the show.
Thanks. I appreciate you guys having me, man. Right on.
I wanted to first, and I have to thank and apologize at the same time. I have to thank the Jedi Council crowd out there, the fans, because they made this happen. And I'll tell you,
They did.
Let's tell the story of how this happened.
All of a sudden, I got one little. I'm fairly new to Twitter. I think it's been just over a year now, and I got this tweet that said, "Hey, when are you going to be on Jedi Council?" And I was like, "Well, I don't know. Was I supposed to be on it?" And then I got like, in an hour, just shot after shot after. Why are you not? Don't deny us this. I'm like, wait, what did I do? Someone from the council better get at me and let me know what the hell's going on. And you did, and then we worked it out. So thanks for the ceasefire.
In the episode, I can't remember what we were talking about at first. We might have been talking about Simon or something because we'd had drinks with Simon.
Yeah.
And then something came up about Rebels, and one of us said, "Oh man, we gotta get Freddie Prinze on here sometime soon." It's like, "Hey guys, would you guys want to see Freddie Prinze?" And then all of a sudden, we're looking at our feed, and everybody's bombarding Freddie with these tweets, and Christian and I are like, "Oh my God, what have we done?"
I was like, did I say something about like abortion or racism or like what is going on, man?
I had to say, I was like, guys, we're talking about it. Let it go.
I just love the image of you sitting at home, seeing that you have to be on Jedi Council, and you're wondering, like, is Yoda pissed off?
Yeah, I was literally like, okay, and then like turn off Twitter, like, okay, what did I do? I don't understand. But
Well,
sure.
He is here now, and we are not only going to talk, we're absolutely going to talk about Rebels. Don't worry about that. But he is here because he is one of those guys. Look, I have been there at Comic-Con. I was there at Celebration, and even recently the press conference. This dude knows his Star Wars, so that's why he's here as well too. He's going to talk everything Star Wars. He's on for the full show, and we're going to talk to you guys about everything in general that we normally talk on the show, and then we're going to get full in detail about Rebels, about what's going on with Rebels, and about Kanan in general. But let's start with the first topics here, and what we normally talk about, if you guys are new to the show, it's simply Star Wars movie news. This is everything happening in the world of the movies. It could be the saga, it could be the anthology, anything that is happening in the world of the movie news, we talk about it. Mark, what is up first?
Well, we want to thank our friends at StarWarsNewsNet.com. They're a great, not only aggregator of Star Wars information on the web, but they also break their own scoops from time to time. Our first story is about J.J. Abrams, the director of The Force Awakens, and he's talking about said film. He gave a couple little updates. One of the most important ones was the reasons why Luke isn't in that most recent trailer we saw is that it's on purpose. There's a reason why you're not seeing Luke yet. Now, obviously, he didn't say what that was, but he said it's all part of a plan. And then he gave an update recently where he said that trailer that we saw on Monday Night Football was the last trailer you're going to see for The Force Awakens before the movie comes out. Obviously, you're going to get some TV spots, some other things in like that, but nothing more than like the 30-second spots that you're going to see in the weeks leading up to The Force Awakens. So what the footage that we've seen already is pretty much what we're stuck with until December 18th.
Good. We don't need anything else. Nope. I don't want to see anything else. I'm done with seeing. I've seen everything I wanted to see, and they did it without showing me any of the story. And I mean, a little bit of it. You know certain characters who's going to be in it, and there are certain characters who aren't featured in the trailer, like Luke. I love that he's not being featured. I think he's going to be a strong presence towards the end of the film, like I've been saying. But Freddie, you hear JJ's thoughts here on Luke and the fact that we're not seeing a trailer. How are you taking this?
He's just screwing with everybody. If you get to have the puppets, then that's what you do. You get to play with them. They're having fun with the trailer. There definitely will be no more trailers. I mean, Disney didn't buy this so they could invest $1 bazillion in marketing. They bought it because it has its own the IP power, right? The intellectual property. That's why they bought it. I really don't even think they needed to do one trailer outside a sign with a finger on it that just points towards your local theater.
With a stormtrooper helmet on the
Yeah, with a stormtrooper helmet on the thumb. But yeah, man. So it's I don't watch trailers because I don't like seeing anything. But yeah, I was surprised that they did as much as they have, because if you're not going to see Star Wars, then you're that kid in class that the teacher goes, yeah, they're not doing anything. You know what I mean? Like, you could just kind of pick that guy out real quick. So,
John?
Well, I mean, look, Mark and I, and you and I talked about this too, about nothing would have made me wet myself more than if when we were watching that damn trailer, we see Kylo Ren in the forest from behind, and then he turns his head over, and standing behind him is Mother effing Luke Skywalker with his lightsaber out, and you know that everything's about to go down. I would have lost it. I would have been in tears. It would have been amazing. But it totally makes sense. I mean, we kind of expected they weren't going to show us Luke. They've been hiding Luke from us, and we've just kind of been assuming it's going to be for a reason. And you're right. The way they've been handling these trailers, they're really not giving us much. They're withholding one of the main characters that everybody's looking forward to. And Mark and I got a Christian on Movie Talk the other day asking if this will change the way now that movies market themselves because of the success of Star Wars having. And what we said on the show was, look, this works for Star Wars because Star Wars is Star Wars.
Yeah.
It's like Brady just threw 50 passes the other day and they win. But not every quarterback is
Right.
Tom Brady.
Right.
GSP uses Chris Striking to set up takedowns. But not every MMA fighter is George St. Pierre.
And there also hasn't been that weight for other properties like there is
Exactly.
for this
See,
one.
this is Star Wars doing what Star Wars needs to
Right.
do. It's not necessarily a template for other properties to follow.
Yeah, I mean, like when you see the Bridge of Spies trailer, they have to show Tom Hanks. They're like,
Yes.
hey, no, this guy's in the movie. With Star Wars, it's like the opposite. It's like, is he in the movie? You got to see the movie to find out. And I love that they're doing that, and it makes total sense that there's no more trailers. I think you're going to see a little bit more footage, though. I think with the TV
Like TV
spots,
In the
spots?
TV
Yeah.
they're going to
spots,
throw something.
I don't know that we're going to get much new
Well, maybe
stuff
something
in
like the
spots.
Instagram teaser. You know the one that they you don't watch anything.
That
Instagram.
50-second
Let's talk about
Instagram
this
teaser,
teaser.
yeah.
There was an Instagram thing. Maybe they do another one of those.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm going to be having depends on anytime I watch TV for like the last month leading up to it, because you never know when you're going to see a commercial. You're going to see a lot of ads for it on TV. You're going to be inundated with Star Wars the entire month of December, which is a good thing. And I think they'll show you a couple more scenes. You're not going to see Luke Skywalker. You probably won't see Max von Sydow, but you're going to see some of the guys like Kylo Ren, John Boyega,
Right.
Daisy Ridley, the ones that they've already been selling as the stars of this movie. And I think they'll throw in Han Solo too, just to remind everybody that the old people are still in.
And there is one other thing that JJ released in that, and if you want to go check out that article on Star Wars Newsnet, is that there was also a GQ kind of Q&A thing that he did, where like people would have to George
Brilliant.
Lucas ask him a question about Darth Vader and his grandkids. It's a funny little bit, so you should check that out over there. All right, Mark, what's next?
Well, John Boyega and Daisy Ridley had the good fortune to go to the North Pole and meet Santa Claus. No, that's John Williams. Excuse me. That is actually composer John Williams, and they got to hang out with him during a scoring session for The Force Awakens. And John Williams and J.J. Abrams both confirmed that Williams has one more session to do before completing the score for The Force Awakens. Now, by the way, for you keeping score at home, the score for The Force Awakens also comes out on December 18th. You go see the movie, then you get it on iTunes right afterwards. There's really cool shots of John Boyega and Daisy Ridley getting to meet somebody who is so crucial to the Star Wars universe, Mr. John Williams.
Well, I want to turn this to Freddie here, because the first question I have to ask is if you've ever met John. And before you answer that, like, in the family, now that you're in the Star Wars family, is there anyone not in the Rebels crew that you have met in the Star Wars world that just blew your mind?
Yeah, I sat with Mark Hamill for a good long while. We discussed a project a long time ago that I had written, where he was going to be this alien king who died in a very beautiful Shakespearean way, and we were discussing sort of the voice and things like that, and they were wanting to kidnap my daughter. She was like 2 at the time. Him and his wife, they're like, you can leave her here anytime. And I literally was like, at a certain point, I'm like, I could leave my kid with Luke Skywalker. Like, I could do that. I could do that. You know what I mean? So that was pretty mind blowing for me. I've seen his wife quite a few times since then. She's an absolute angel. I got to see her at Star Wars Celebration. She was just sort of sitting there. I was like, how are you not surrounded by like 25 people right now? So I just hung out with her for like a half hour. And she was super sweet. But I have not met the great John Williams.
Can you imagine what it's like for those kids, though, man? Like both Boyega and Daisy Ridley.
Look, I met Peter Lamar Belmont, and that blew my mind. You know what I mean? So, and that's set design. That's not
Yeah.
the music that has that sort of emotional impact. You don't cry when you see, a beam in a starship. You go, oh, that's cool, but you don't get moved to tears, whereas music can really do that. Or if you do, right on. I just don't get it.
But no, but his you're right. His music is a character
Yeah.
in the film. I mean, even in your show, to where because it's Kevin Kiner who does the music
Yeah.
in your show, but he takes all those inspirations from John Williams' music, and you feel that. You feel that.
And we've been fortunate enough for him to record stuff live for our show, and I think he was in the Czech Republic and
That's
used their,
so sick.
and used their
That is
Philharmonic
so
on another job that he was getting paid to do, and he's like, we'll just sneak this into on their dime, and he did it for Dave because him and Dave are really tight.
That's awesome.
And that was our finale. That was all live recorded. I think it was the Czech Republic that he was in. Is this the Czech Republic now? I don't know. Sorry, Czechs.
John.
Well, I mean, look, my wife and I have gone to see John Williams live and in concert for the last 4 years. He does the Hollywood Bowl every year.
That's right.
And he did it like 2 years ago. He did with Julie Andrews.
Right, I
which
was there for that one too, yeah.
Were you there
Yeah,
at that
I
one?
was there.
That one was so.
That's insane.
That was so insane.
Oh, Tim was there too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a
Yeah,
great
yeah.
night. And I met George Lucas a number of years ago, and oddly enough, the next guy on the list, if I had a wish list of who I'd want to meet from the Star Wars universe, it would be John Williams. I've never met the man, and there's a part of me really deep down that wants to really hate Boyega and Daisy right in that picture. But did you guys see their reactions to the trailers?
It's genuine,
How
man.
can you
Yeah.
not love both of these people? And now, so my disgust and hatred of both of them is turned into, you know what, it couldn't happen to nicer people after seeing their reactions to the
Did
trailers.
they
stuff like
get
that.
to see it with an audience of people?
No,
Oh,
like
they
Daisy,
saw it solo.
Daisy's, I think it was her boyfriend.
Yeah, we
shot
think,
her
yeah.
watching the trailer for the first time in a bed and breakfast,
Yeah.
watching it
That's
on her
nice.
iPhone.
Yeah.
That's nice.
And she instantly became America's sweetheart.
Oh, and
I mean,
yeah.
you can't help but
Boyega
fall in
was
love
jump-
with it.
Boyega
Boyega's
jumped over
totally
the
different.
couch.
It was great.
It was great.
Absolutely, it was
But
wonderful.
again, and I said this, the reason what Star Wars is doing now with Freddy's show, with Star Wars, they are casting, and even directors, they're casting people who know the property, who love the property, fans of the property, and I think that is beneficial because you get genuine reactions like this.
Yeah.
Mark, what do you think about this?
I mean, what is John Williams going to get out of meeting me? I'd just be embarrassed, you know? I'm like, hey, your score meant a lot. He's like, oh, I never heard that one before. It's the thing, you got to fist pump him, because if you shake his hand, I don't want to give him a dead fish, because I want to, like, respect him.
You want to give him the
But
rapper respect.
I don't want to
Absolutely.
crush his hand too hard from excitement, though, because he's got to compose that thing. Like, I don't want to be the guy
Right,
that
you're
injured.
the guy that did it. You shook his
Yeah,
hand,
I don't
right.
want to be that dude, so I prefer just to enjoy the music.
Right.
Look, if a pound is good enough for Run DMC, good enough.
You know what? Sweat on his hand, then he burns
I will
his hand
definitely sweat
washing.
on your hand,
All
Mr.
right, what's
Williams.
next?
Well, we were talking about that trailer that just took the world over. Everybody fell in love with it, and it ended up breaking some records. The official Star Wars website has issued a thank you note to the fans for their continued support of the movie. And along the way, they gave away some interesting details about the actual metrics that the trailer compiled in its first 24 hours of release. It broke a record that was set by the second trailer for Star Wars. So this one destroyed the Star Wars record, and then they also mentioned that the thing is just making records as far as ticket sales go. We already mentioned that it made $6.5 million just in IMAX sales in the first 24
Which
hours.
may not sound
Didn't it break
impressive.
Fandango? Like,
Yeah, it
didn't
shut-
Broke
a couple
Fandango
sites.
They broke
and
them.
4 different leading
And that
movie ticket sites
IMAX
all
number,
crashed.
6.5 million, may not sound like a lot, but remember the previous record for IMAX was like 1.2.
Right.
That's how much it's shattered the record by.
That's right. Now here's the number I have: is 128 million times this trailer was watched globally in one day, and that breaks the record of Trailer 2, which was watched a measly 88 million times
Yeah, that
in one
sucks.
day. It's pretty incredible that Freddie Prinze Jr. isn't one of those people that watched the trailer.
It's funny though. 'cause it
There's
take-
a couple of us.
there are though. There
A
are.
You guys have like a survivors meeting. You
There's
just
like
hang
guys
out.
that live in
we
the
were
Yukon
not-
that are like Force Awakens
know.
trailer. I'm
if
like,
we
what?
were not in this business, I don't know that we would have watched the trailer.
It would have been tough to stay
It
away
would have been
from
tough
it.
to stay
Are you-
away from
I don't
it,
care
but-
how crappy that Monday Night Football game was. I was staying through at least until halftime. I'm a huge Star Wars fan regardless. I'm watching everything I
I'm a
can.
Giants fan, and I was fast forwarding. I'm like, come on, let's go. Yeah, but you know, it's funny. It goes back to the conversation that we had about the December records in general. And I had said this, and I've been saying because 86 million was the record in December.
Yeah.
Like, it was one of the Hobbit movies
For domestic opening weekend.
Domestic opening weekend,
which I
86
believe beat
million.
another Lord of the Rings movie, which was like
Something,
70
and
something.
Avatar was like 75 or something along
Yes.
those lines. So, and because of weather and because of Christmas, you just think it's going to be tough for a movie to crack 150 million in December. after these records, man, I'm going about 2:30 opening weekend. I think it's going to break Jurassic World. I really think that we have a shot here of this being the movie. I know
You're changing your tune.
I'm changing my tune, man.
All right. Good man.
How do you look at these numbers and not change your tune?
Yeah, when new information
people
comes,
in
new opinions.
Chicago will walk through 3 feet of snow and
see
40
this?
mile
Yeah.
per hour winds. They'll use
key
the
is-
force and just walk their way through, man. And they're going.
The key is get to the theater before the weather hits. So go now. Start camping out. Have you been in a movie theater
I
lobby?
did
There's
that for the
plenty of
Phantom
room.
Menace. It didn't work out.
Didn't
so
work
well.
out. John, is there any? I mean, so what do you think of these records overall? Is this just insanity or
Well,
what?
it's just one thing compiling on top of another with these records. And look, I know we said this on Movie Talk, and I know we said this in Jedi Council before, but it really has to be said again. These types of records, we're seeing the previous record 1.2 million, now 6.5, where Fandango is saying it beat its previous record by 8 times. AMC Theaters is reporting that it beat the previous single day ticket sales by 10 times. We are never going to see this happen again. These records being beaten by 7 times, 8 times, 10 times, we'll see the record get beaten eventually.
Right.
Yeah,
But
the grandson
this-
of J.J. Abrams when he takes over.
he takes over
Right.
to that. But what we're seeing right now is so special. This is something we're never going to see again. Our kids are never going
Right.
to see these types of records. Look, I was even under you before. Like I said for a long time, you can't expect a month where the previous record is 86 million to beat 150 million dollars. That's just unreasonable. And now I'm singing a tune of 250. Now I'm thinking 250. I mean, it's like, how can you not when you look at these numbers?
Right.
It's just it's
We're in the
unfathomable.
prime. I would even say even past 77. We're in the prime of Star Wars right now.
Yeah.
You're getting 2 generations to show up.
Yep.
And regardless
Yep.
of how the first generation feels about the second generation's introduction to the universe, both are going to this one.
Yep.
One to see the continuation and one for this like shot at redemption. I don't feel that anything needed to be redeemed. It's like people that hate John Cena in pro wrestling. You loved Hulk Hogan. You know what I mean? He's not your Hulk Hogan. So, that was the same thing for me. And they were, the second trilogy was doing young adult or novel stuff before those were even getting optioned as movies and pulled it off in a phenomenal level. And that's what today's market was jonesing for. And they really smashed the door down for that. So I think you're literally going to get every single Star Wars fan in the world to go see the movie.
Which is most of us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it really is. There's a lot of us. Mark?
I think it's about families. I've said for a while I think it's going to do somewhere around 250 opening weekend, and I'm going to stand by that because I know my family's going to contribute a lot to that cause. And it's also a situation where there's a lot of factors at play, not just that it's a holiday, and the kids are already out of school by the 18th, and that everybody wants to see this movie. Everybody's interested in this movie, so regardless of what the demographics may skew towards, this movie is going to crush opening weekend. And for a while after that, I'm a really competitive dude, so I want Star Wars to be the highest everything of all time. If it's not, I'm going to get over it really quickly, so I'm just going to go keep seeing the movie.
yeah.
And regardless of what it does opening weekend, I think it has a great shot to surpass Avatar
Really?
as the most money-making movie of all time.
Well, that will depend not on the marketing, not on these advanced ticket sales.
repeat
That will
viewing.
strictly depend on how good is the movie.
Which is- that
will
depends
people go
on
back
us.
7,
Yeah.
8,
Yeah.
9, 10 times to see
right.
it.
Yeah, it's true. All right, Mark, what's next?
Breaking news: The Force Awakens is widely predicted to become one of the biggest movies of all time. And now, so we were talking about the demographics a little bit. Hey, boys.
That's a good picture.
I'm pretty sure these guys are going to fight through the snow to go see the movie. But neither one of those guys, actually, one of them
guy on
kind
the
of
right.
looks like a
Guy on the right.
34-year-old male, and that is what the average demographic is for the ticket buyer who has purchased tickets already for the Star Wars The Force Awakens film. Now, there's a bunch of different marketing firms, primarily Movio Media, who has compiled what that person looks like, and so it looks like 70% of people buying tickets to go
Apparently
see
we look
Star
like that.
Wars it's 70% male right now. And so as far as the females go, it looks like they're a little more excited to see Hunger Games than Star Wars The Force Awakens, but hopefully the boyfriends can take the girlfriends to see Hunger
They're
Games.
dragging them there
and
the
then go
same way
back and
girls
forth.
drug their men to romantic comedies in the 90s.
Right.
Like,
Absolutely, yeah.
Listen, this doesn't surprise me though. I mean, like, it's funny because when I saw it at first, because normally, John, you and I were talking about this before. When you're targeting an audience in general for movies, you're going to the 18 to 24. That's who you're going to go for to get to buy your movie ticket. That's who's going to the movies. But when, like, it's what Freddie just said before, as far as our generation that really wants to see another Star Wars movie like we saw that original trilogy, those are the ones who are, it looks like, dominantly buying tickets here, which makes sense. But the other thing is, with this strong female push with Daisy Ridley and Gwendolyn Christie and everything they've done so far. Star Wars has made this, and not just doing it for political correctness, but doing it because it fits the characters.
Yeah, by the way, Princess Leia saves the guys way more than the guys save her in the original. So
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
So when I heard all this, like, oh, finally they're giving, I'm like, did you not watch in the 70s what Star Wars was doing
Right.
before anyone else?
Right,
Like,
and
what are you
R2D2 saved
talking about?
everybody's ass more
That's
times than
right.
anybody else. So
That's
if you're
right.
a droid out there, go see it.
There's going to be a lot of heavy droid presence in the next trilogy.
Damn right.
But I would just say that this is again going back to the previous conversation. This is why this movie is going to be a phenomenon. But so, are you shocked at all that this is the target demographic is 30? Is 34?
I'm shocked that one of those guys looks 34. Because I'm trying to. I mean, maybe if they were like melded together, and then it would become a 12 and a 55-year-old just smooshed together.
He looks like Taggart from Beverly Hills Cop.
Oh my God, you nailed it.
They're not just cops; they're super cops.
Marco,
It
what do you?
looks like everybody's gym teacher dressed up as Darth
Yeah, I
Vader,
mean, the
like go
demo
run
for
laps.
Star Wars runs 40 years. Like you said, there's not you can't follow the Star Wars plan because there's never been a Star Wars. Like X-Men doesn't count. It started with a comic book in the way that like a young adult, like the Maze Runner gets made or Hunger Games gets made. Star Wars, I know there's books out there, but it wasn't like, ooh, the Star Wars book, let's option it and make a movie. It was, hey, I have a good idea for a movie. Here it is. And based off that one film, there's thousands of books and comics and cartoon, or you're not allowed to say cartoons anymore. When I was a kid, cartoons were awesome, and now it's like a slap to the face. But there's animation, and there's other movies and toys and rides and all this stuff and apps and all this crazy stuff. I promise, the movie's already made its money back.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Already
right.
made its money
That
back.
Absolutely.
4.4 billion was a steal.
That's
I'm
right. And
telling you.
experts, according to this, experts think that the Avatar all-time record of $2.78 billion is within reach.
Wow.
And I agree with that. I mean, 200,000 tickets for this movie were sold in one day in the UK.
That's
Yeah.
nuts. Well, it's exactly
And that's
what
a tiny island.
It's a little island.
it's exactly what Freddie was saying earlier. This is a multi-generational film. And so that 34, while at first, yeah, you hear 34 is the average, but then you think about it, no, this is a multi-generational number. 34 is probably exactly where that number should be. Because you got like I was telling you before, my parents who first got the internet 3 years ago, okay? They've bought tickets online for this. We've got, I ran, walking down Burbank there, we had a couple of kids come up to us. It's like, oh, we love movie talk. Can't wait to see Star Wars. Which song are you going to? Who are 16, 17 years old. So you got all of that, and then you got your medium in the middle there.
Right.
So this actually makes a lot of sense at age.
All right, Mark, what's next?
Well, if you are going to see the Star Wars The Force Awakens, which apparently a lot of you 34-year-olds are, you better be careful how you dress, because there's going to be a little bit of a dress code, and I think it makes perfect sense. If you're going to come in cosplay, which I'm sure a lot of fans are, you're not going to be allowed to wear a mask into most major theater chains. You can't also bring a concealed weapon that might be a blaster or a lightsaber. So if you're wearing your Jedi robe, you got to make sure you're showing your face. Don't wear a helmet. Don't bring a toy gun to the theater, because it's just stupid to do so in today's age.
It's unfortunate. It really is. It's I remember even seeing when I saw Phantom Menace back in the day, and everybody was dressed up, and there were tons of Darth Vaders, and there were all these people who were dressed in Stormtrooper gear. And it makes sense. I mean, for all the craziness that's happened in the world right now, you got to protect your viewers. You got to protect the people that are coming to the theaters, and you can't let the theater be a place of risk. I mean, it still will be in some way or another, but I mean, this makes sense to me. Does anybody else feel like it?
You just got to decide what's cooler: wearing your mask or living and getting scoring a hot chick, the girl of your dreams. What's cooler, man? Do you want to be in a situation? Will it probably not happen? It probably won't happen. But if it does, you just had a really bad day.
Yeah.
So this is the world we live in today. In the 70s, it was awesome. You didn't have to do that. Get a DeLorean, go 88 miles an hour, and relive it, man. And it'll be great. Today, no.
Yeah, I mean, I also remember when I went to go see the Star Wars, the reissues, the special editions in theaters. Every theater chain, I saw that movie multiple times at various locations. They always had a few people dressed up as stormtroopers or Darth Vader that worked at the theater. So it'd be great if you can pay them money to do that. You should beef up security. Your theater's going to make a ton of money when Star Wars: The Force Awakens comes out, because you have that Chipmunk movie coming out as well. So you can have a couple extra hands of security on set. You need to take care of the audience that is going to go see this movie. Every theater's going going to be packed. Take care of your fans.
It's not just the practical thing, though, too. It's also the perception. It's will the audience feel safe? Like, this isn't anything new, by the way. Like, I remember last Halloween, like, my wife and a bunch of friends of us, we go to Vegas every Halloween, right? And my wife decided last year she was going to dress up as the Ultimate Warrior. It was an amazing costume. So she had face paint and everything. Would not let her into any clubs. You couldn't have total face coverage or masks or anything that remotely looked like Comic-Cons. You can't go with fake weapons now. And if you do have something that even remotely looks like that, you got to take it to a security station.
Right.
They got to put a tag on it, inspect it. So this isn't new. It makes sense. And you know what? If it's going to make families feel safer going there, like wondering if that gun in the dude's pocket is real or not, if that's going to make audiences feel more comfortable and more safe watching the film, you're right. It's unfortunate that that's the age we live in, but it's an understandable step for them to take.
Absolutely.
So I completely
Yeah,
get
and
it.
it's Star Wars. It's not the Rocky Horror Picture
Yes,
Show. You don't get
yes.
to interact. You don't
Right.
throw toast at the screen. You don't shoot blasters at bad guys.
Right.
Like, you watch, you enjoy, you go, ooh, and then the weirdos moan and complain, and then go watch it 10 more times.
That's the thing. Is you'll
Yeah.
you'll get over it. At first you'll be like, I wanted to wear my mask, and then you're gonna be like, and then you forget because you're watching.
It's
the
just,
movie.
it gives me pause. Like when I go to Comic-Con or like any of these conventions, and you have people walking in full costume. It's like, holy, I can't tell. Is that a real rocket launcher on your shoulder? They all look so good. Carl's Jr. had an ad campaign like a year ago,
for
and they
X-Men.
said if you come in dressed as it was for Spider-Man. I think it was
was
for
it?
the Amazing
Okay.
Spider-Man Part 2. If you come in dressed as Spider-Man, you get a free burger. Well, like 38 of them got robbed because people came in with Spider-Man masks and then decided to use their web shooters to hold up the store. It's like not a smart move.
Right. Oh,
You know
wow.
what? Here's the other thing, though. You know what? You are still going to get. I remember one of my favorite things about going when back in the day when I was going to see the prequels. One of the coolest things is you're still going to get all those guys and girls outside in line waiting, bringing their radios, playing the Star Wars music, having their fake lightsaber fights outside, and they'll
Outside,
probably
right.
stow them away before it's time to go in. I think we're still going to get a little bit of that Star Wars tailgating, and that'll be cool, but once you get into the theater, it doesn't really matter.
All right, Mark. What's next?
Well, let's talk about Episode 8 a little bit. We might have a working title for the movie. Jedi News reported on 2 possible working titles for a couple of future Star Wars projects. One is called Lunak Heavy Industries, and another movie is called Space Bear Industries. Again, these are just the working titles for the film, maybe to give some sort of shroud of secrecy so TMZ isn't all over it. Now, apparently Space Bear Industries is the working title for Rian Johnson's Episode 8, and that's according to some online job profiles that have certain crew listed that we know is involved with Episode 8. So it looks like Lunak Heavy Industries might be one of the anthology films. Christian,
Yeah.
are you excited to get advance tickets to see Space Bear Industries?
Oh, I can't wait. It's like Space Chimps. Remember that one?
Remember Space Chimps?
I remember
God,
Space
what-
Chimps.
I never saw it, but God, what
Me
a great movie.
Either.
They sound like dummy corporations from like season 1 Deadpool.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and he's going to like take down the head of the corporation. I love them. They're
Yeah,
perfect.
This is okay. I mean, whatever. I mean, it's to me
Well,
great.
it's Blue Harvest.
Yeah, it's Blue Heart.
Right?
It's just going to be. It's one of those things. I think it's for years to come. Like, oh, remember when it was called? When Episode 8 was called Space blah 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 Bear Industries? Whatever. I don't care.
Yeah, but how
You
many
see
fans?
enough signs of like the productions around LA. It's like for
Oh,
the
yeah.
sequel for I Know You Did, it was just called We Know. Like, and you just see the sign, and that's where you went to park. You know
weren't
what I
even
mean?
trying at that
yeah,
point,
they're like, we know. We're just park right there.
That's
right?
everybody knows what you did last summer. We
Yeah,
get
the
it. It
truck's
happened.
gonna run you off the cliff and just roll. All right.
All right.
I can't wait for the fervor though, because I love Ewoks, but some people might take Space Bear Industries as a
It's canon
showing
now.
their
You
hand.
just got me excited.
Oh, no.
You just got me excited.
There's going to be so many Ewoks.
What if they're
Episode 8 is
Wookiees
supposed
and
to
not
be dark.
Ewoks?
They
What if they're
could be- They could be
Wookiees?
huge space bears.
They could be
grizzly
Ewookiees.
space bears.
There was a guy, by the way, that just heard our last story and is pissed because he's been working on his Wookiee costume for years. All right, what's the
Sorry, Chewie.
Yeah, what's the
only
last?
Latino in space?
What is the last story in the movie news?
By the way, you can still wear a Chewbacca costume. You just got to take the helmet off. So you can still
Yeah.
have the
Yeah,
furry
Just
body,
grow your
you know?
beard out. That's the style today, anyway.
You have
That's
to
right.
shave, apparently. Too.
All right, so look, there's been stuff all over the internet
No
this
hipsters
week.
allowed in theaters.
That should be a rule
This
in
Christmas
general.
in general.
Anyway.
Oh, don't kill the hipsters.
That's right. No, I'm
They-
sure.
they- that beard gives them confidence for the first time in their lives.
I'm sure Silver Lake is going to have some ironic screening of The Room, so they don't need to go see The Force Awakens.
Come on, come on.
Okay,
Next.
so Luke Skywalker, there's been a theory going around about Luke, and we haven't seen him in any of the trailers yet, so there's a lot of fervor saying that, oh, maybe maybe he's going to be bad in Star Wars. Then Huffington Post had this really interesting article that came out about whether Luke Skywalker could be bad or not. Christian, you saw all this stuff blowing up on the internet this week. What is your take on the theory that Luke Skywalker has gone to the dark side?
I think it's nonsense.
It's the dumbest thing ever.
I think it's so nonsense. Now, it really is. But the thing is, this is what we do on our show is we do theories and speculation all the time. So I can't tell the guy. I can't say the guy's. And he's a good writer, and it was a really fun article.
Yeah,
It's a well-written article.
And what you said before, you nailed it. You said it was great fan fiction. That's exactly what it was. There's no way, and I will put it in. I take it to the bank. There is no way.
He will write it in blood.
Write it in blood. There is no way that Luke Skywalker is evil. There's no way.
He's Gandhi. His greatest Jedi strength is his willingness not to fight.
Right.
He's not good with a lightsaber. Luke's not a good fighter with a lightsaber.
Well, he's got 1.5 hands, Fred.
He struggles pulling his lightsaber out of a snowdrift, okay? Like, he's not this machine that can destroy. The way he beats Vader is by disengaging, through peaceful combat. He literally is Gandhi. You do that, and you've destroyed the entire foundation that every creative person involved with the series has said they would not do.
Right, and
I'm sure they're a great writer, right on Huffington Post. That's dumb.
I agree, and I think he made a couple good points because Luke did tune into the dark side in Jedi because that's how he was able to take Vader down. But like Freddie said, he stepped back from it because then there was that whole
Gandhi
point.
doesn't go dark.
Yeah, and how about so be it, Jedi? Like, don't forget about that.
Where's Sam
that's-
Witwer, dude? You gotta have him do that.
Sam does the best.
This is
Emperor.
so sick.
It's
I
Sam-
love
I-
Tim Curry, but man, Sam is
Dude,
money.
I thought it was him. When I saw the thing of Celebration, I thought it was actually
When he's like,
in.
hunt him
Yes.
down. You're just like, dude, what?
Lord Vader.
Man.
Here's the thing that the writer misses a little bit, and I get it. Look, there are moments of temptation. I once heard Lucas talk a little bit about the messianic imagery and all that kind of stuff, that Luke faces his temptations, right? Because in that Jedi scene when he's on the Death Star, it's like, your friends are going to die. Take your lightsaber, strike me down. And he gives into it. He grabs the lightsaber, right? There we see moments of temptation, and that's what the writer's pointing out in the article. But what the article misses is that one key point, that at the end of all the trials, all the temptation, all the hardship, it comes down to no.
You just said it with one word: trials. And
Yeah.
if that's Luke's 5th trial and it's passed, he's not
Yeah,
going.
that's an ultimate scene when he has Vader beaten.
Yeah.
He can kill him now, and he just turns to the Emperor, throws his lightsaber down, and says, "No, I'm a Jedi like my father before me, and yes, I know his father before him turned to the dark side."
Yeah.
But that was the culmination of the trial.
And he's learning from his father's mistake. I mean, it's
yeah,
not like
yes.
Anakin's choice is evil. He's doing it because he thinks it's the way to save,
Right. Yeah,
his passion and his love, and he's not understanding the no attachments thing. And so it's not like he's like, "Oh, I want power" and all this stuff. That was not Anakin's way. He's learning from his father's
He says
mistakes.
he'll never turn to the dark side, and he throws his lightsaber. Which, by the way, I hope he picked his lightsaber up because we're all expecting to see a green lightsaber in episode. I hope he managed to grab that before he took off.
I'm sure he did.
that would be the
there's-
second one he lost, by the way.
There's a point in the
Luke's allowed
in
to
the
have his
article,
names.
like the most interesting to me is when he's complaining about the way that Return of the Jedi did end. That it was more of a happy family ending than what it was originally planned to be, where it was going to be more dark and bittersweet. Which I get that, but I still feel that from the way Return of the Jedi did end. When he's looking at the funeral pyre, you see all these emotions going over Luke Skywalker's face, but it's a mixture to me of sadness and relief that this thing is over.
Yeah.
That he's watching
Yeah,
his
it's the
dad
end of a
burn.
war.
That it was what had to happen, because even if Darth Vader survived, that would have been a really awkward day at work on everybody. If Darth Vader is around, it's like, oh, sorry, I blew up your
it
planet.
would destroy the whole. Like, the basic story is: boy wants his father, boy finds his father, boy finds out his father is the worst human being on earth in the universe. If you mess with that, then nothing else makes sense, and they're just not gonna.
Now,
do
having
that.
said
They're
all
smart
that,
guys.
though, I am not going into The Force Awakens with any viewpoint that, oh, this story is bad or they can't tell this story. I will sit back and enjoy whatever the hell The Force Awakens wants to show me for 2 hours, and then I'll process
if they
it
tell it in
afterwards.
the right way,
If they
like if
tell
they
it-
find the right way to
Right.
tell. But here's the thing: this is the other problem with their theory. Going into the Force, like, hey, Rey, wonderful. Finn, great. If Luke Skywalker is evil, the universe is just screwed.
Right. There's no.
and a
there's-
lot of
they're
people will
just
click your
screwed.
article if you say that.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, that's everything so far in the Star Wars movie news. Now it comes to that part of the show where it's simply called What's the deal with canon? That's right. Everything in the world of Star Wars, it can be the books, the comics, the shows, anything that ties back into the history of Star Wars, this is where we talk about it. Now, like you guys have noticed over the past half an hour, we have a very special guest here talking about Star Wars, and he's part of official canon. He's part of Star Wars Rebels. He is Kanan. He is, we think at this point, the Last Jedi. We haven't met Luke yet. And I have to, there's so much I want to talk to you about with Rebels, Freddie. This is such a phenomenal show. I have been, the fans know I've been raving about this show since I was able to see it last year. I read New Dawn at Comic-Con last year. Just, I mean, I was literally, I was working for AMC at the time, and I remember waking up in the morning. And
You coming downstairs? I'm already downstairs at the breakfast table. You come down. Did you read this?
I'm
yet?"
reading New Dawn. I just got it at the HitFix party the night before, and I'm reading it, like, I blew through it and learning more about who Kanan was and who Hera was, and this journey about and what Dave Filoni had said about this ultimate finding out how the rebellion started. The first thing I got to ask you is, like, your involvement with the show, like, because obviously we know you're a big Star Wars fan. Like, how did you hear about the role of Kanan? How'd the audition process go? Like, all that stuff. How'd you get involved?
Well, they keep things very under wraps. So it was called the Wolf Pack, which is this homage to Dave and his love of Los Lobos,
Of the bear
of
factories.
the wolves.
Yes.
Yes. And the dialogue was tweaked considerably, and they were like, it read like an episode of Thunder the Barbarian. Literally, it was like sun swords and lords of light and like goofy stuff. And I was like, yeah, it's Disney. And my agent said, if you get in with Disney, you're gonna love it. They take care of you forever. So I was like, all right, I'll go read for it. And I got there, and another guy who I know, old school voiceover guy, said, hey man, are you here for the Wolfpack? I said, yeah. He goes, you know what that is, right? I said, no. He goes, I don't want to cuss on your show, but he said it's effing Star Wars. And I was like, what? He goes, yeah, man, it's the new Star Wars. And I was like, oh my God, man, all right. But I didn't know if he was, the same audition or what. So I went in and saw some artwork, and the artwork was Star. I'm like, okay, they're either ripping off StarArs or this is a new Star Wars cartoon. And another girl that was reading for the Sabine role was there. She wasn't as good as our Sabine, Tia, but she did a good job, I'm sure. And then I went in and I saw Dave with his black hat, and then I was like, okay, cool. That's all. Once I saw his, I was like, this is Star Wars, and they all kind of nodded. I said, all right, just give me a second. And I walked off, and I knew what they wanted with Kanan. I know I'm not supposed to say this, but they wanted Han Solo as a Jedi, and so I was like, I'll summon my Han Solo, make sure they see my scar on my chin. We're good to go. And, I knocked it out. I felt I did a good job. And then Dave asked a couple of people that we had both worked with what I was like to work with, and then they dug me. So we moved forward from there, man. And that was how I got it. But it
In
was
the
a very
spirit of Han Solo, you
standard-
probably should have built him a door on your way out. Or like
with my sweet carpentry skills, those don't exist.
I gotta say this, because I think this is a testimony and a testament to what you have been able to do, not just with the show as a whole, but what you have brought to Kanan. I was not a big fan of the Clone Wars, the animated series. I was also not a fan of New Dawn, the book. And so when the show was going to start, I remember, Christian, you saw it before me.
Yeah, and I was a fan of both
And
those.
you were really pitching me on it. And I'm like, all right, I'll give it a shot. And I remember the first time I watched, because I texted you right as soon as I finished watching it. What you guys have done with that, you've done what I think nothing has been able to capture in dozens of years, which you captured the spirit of Star Wars. And I think a lot of that, in no small part, and everybody in this room can attest that this is true because I've said this before, is what you've brought to Kanan. And I think as the centerpiece of that show, and I'm sure you're going to, a lot of the credit goes to a lot of people. But
You'll hear me say that soon.
Because the character is so, in a galaxy far, far away, believable and relatable, and you hear the passion in the voice, and it just feels so grounded that it instantly hooked me. And I remember talking to Christian and Mark about this at the first time I saw it. I said, I can't believe this. I'm watching something and I feel like I'm watching Star Wars again. I was just blown away by it. I just couldn't, especially considering I hadn't liked a lot of the stuff that had come out before it. And just like what you have done, what your whole team has done, thank you so much, because what you guys have done there has just reignited more passion in me about being a Star Wars fan in general. And I'm just such a fan of what you guys are doing over there.
Those are beyond kind words, man. That's awesome to hear people respond to it that way, especially if they're approaching something critically. When you win, they say stolen money feels better than earned money. Right? So I appreciate that a lot. But you said no small part, and I appreciate that too. I'm a part of the process, but we get scripts that I don't have to change dialogue in.
Right.
You know what I mean? We have a director who created and nurtured Clone Wars for so long, and he'll acknowledge where mistakes were made and where they really advanced the genre. Dave is not an arrogant guy. He self-evaluates, he self-analyzes, he self-directs his own direction. So he knows what worked and what didn't in Clone Wars. He knows they got a little heavy at times. And all those lessons and everything I've learned from being scared to try things in movies where, you know, I shouldn't have been scared, but I just didn't have the life experience or the confidence to apply the life experience. Right. And so like Dave, you know, I've grown a lot as an actor too. And he and I are pretty much the same age. We have incredibly similar tastes. He just happens to be into art and I happen to be into martial arts, but they're both arts. You know, he can draw and I can choke, and that's, but we're doing the same thing. So as far as like our philosophies on Star Wars, the original trilogies, all that, we're very much on the same page. So he gives me, this is a long-winded answer. I'm sure it'll answer another question down the road.
I don't think anybody finds it long-winded.
Okay, cool. But like when we get the script sometimes, you know, very early, and when I say very early in the animation world, that's just a couple weeks.
Right.
Sometimes it's as late as the day before. But before any of that happens, you know, we sit down and he discusses the entire season with everybody in the cast. I'm not the lucky one. I just bother him more than anyone else, and whether we're at work or not. And he'll break down all the, you know, whatever the major obstacle is that Kanan's going to have to deal with, and sometimes there's going to be more than one. The minor obstacles, how those obstacles affect the big one. What's my goal? How am I going to get around this obstacle, or is he going to flow through it like a Jedi? Is he going to crash and fail? How many times is he going to? So he breaks down the whole season for me really, really well. And then I just spend hour and hour and hour thinking about how I would handle that, what life experiences I can apply to that, you know, all that stuff with the Clone Wars and dealing with the fact that he's going to work with a guy who looks exactly like the guy that killed his master. You know, my uncle was a Vietnam veteran and suffered mega PTSD, and I tried to apply every story that I could fit into a Star Wars capsule and make it a part of that. And you know, it was during the time of my spine surgery, so I wasn't there the day everyone recorded. And it actually turned out better. It was just Dave and I, and we literally spent an hour on that, just that speech. And that's not a long monologue, man. It's short, but we did it probably 40 different ways. There was a take where I literally was just bawling, crying, and was like, yo, I gotta get a cup of coffee. Like, I can't do it. It's gonna sound sad the rest of the day. And so, you know, we took a break and we talked about World of Warcraft for an hour and then went back in and then did a few more, because we both played Warcraft for years and years and years. So I'm telling you, we're the same guys, just one can draw, one can choke. So, you know, that I try to bring as much of my life and the people whose lives I know like my own to this character when it applies. I love Star Wars as much as anyone who grew up loving Star Wars, and the last thing I want to do is screw up a character that I think is awesome, because he's a Jedi we all wanted to play, a Jedi who can break rules. Like, that's not fair.
Yeah. And shoots a blaster.
Yeah, so it's cheating in a way. So I approach it with kid gloves. Every time he sort of breaks the Force, Dave always makes sure that he pays for it. So we always exist within the rules of Star Wars that have been established, the canon rules. I know many more rules have been broken in the EU, but yeah, man, we try to stay really honest, and he and I have a tremendous amount of passion for it, as you can tell.
Well, when you're talking about the preparation with Kanan, and you know, you talked about that scene, and Freddie was referencing episode 2. Or was it episode 1, I guess, because they're not including Siege of Lothal, when you come across Rex.
Yeah.
Do you, because we had Greg Weisman on last week, who's now...
That's right.
Who's writing the Kanan comic book, and issue 7 just came out. Are you reading that comic in preparation to know? Because for me, when I'm all caught up on the comic, there was a particular scene where they show where his master gets betrayed, and when that speech that you're talking about, I initially went back to that scene because I was there.
Yeah.
Like, I was there, I read it, I'm there. Like, are you reading, like, New Dawn? Are you reading these comics to get more history of what's happening in the canon of Kanan?
The comics, I'm reading literally to my daughter right now for bedtime. They're bedtime stories.
That's awesome.
That's
As
incredible.
brutal as they are. But my daughter's also seen every episode of Clone Wars by the time she was 5. So Star Wars tells the truth, man. The good guys don't always win. And sometimes your mommy and daddy can say, you're the best and it's going to work out. And it don't. So I've always felt those were powerful life lessons. So, I didn't have, the comic wasn't written when we started the show. Greg was just our lead writer. And just our lead writer. But everything you saw in the comic, we discussed then. And this is a year, maybe just over a year before the comic was even due to come out, before they even had a writer assigned to the comic. So Greg had this world better than any other writer could have done it, because he was the one who explained it to me.
Right. So you knew
with
the backstory.
Dave.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
knew everything that happened in the book, the comic, everything that's happened to Kanan, and pretty much everything that's going to happen to Kanan is in there. All the
He knows
big
how to
stuff.
choke, Christian.
Let's-
He knows how to choke.
Let's restrain
trying to-
ourselves.
yeah,
Let's restrain ourselves.
But it's funny. These answers are great. You are clearly an awesome ambassador for Space Bear Industries.
I love Space Bears. That's really
One
nice.
of the ways that Christian sold me on starting to watch Rebels was the description of the character Kanan, because it was like Han Solo and he's got a dark past, and it's like a Han Solo meets a Jedi thing. So there's not a lot of programs that'll let me sit through the commercials on Disney XD. Which is like
Sorry about
Gorilla
that, by the
Gym
way.
and tricks and Superman pull-ups, and then now we're back to Kanan giving Ezra some advice, which was one of my favorite things about
that's
the
great.
Always There Are Two episode, because we get a little bit of that. Some of my favorite things in Rebels are when Kanan is trying to guide Ezra, because I always get the feeling that you know what you're talking about, but Ezra is such a powerful, he's
Yeah.
got so much talent that it's almost like you're not going to be able to help controlling him forever, and then if he's going to go down the path of the dark side, he kind of has to do it, because you might not be able to stop him.
It's hard learning on the fly. I think a lot of when he says his Yoda-ish things, he's just hoping Ezra doesn't call him on it. You know what I mean?
Right,
It's
right.
when you know it's right, but you can't explain why.
You can't show your work.
It's like
Yeah.
when my mother, who did things in the 80s that were more acceptable than they are now, would say, do as I say, not as I do, right? It's because, look, I know what I'm doing is wrong. Just shut up and do what I say. And so there's a lot of that in him, because he is not a master. He's not even a knight. A lot of people, the very first interview I did, they were so excited that there was a Star Wars card. They were like, wow, he's a Jedi Knight. And I was like, whoa, slow down. He's not. He stopped as a teenager. And the Inquisitor, Jason Isaacs, is basically his master. That's who teaches him how to fight, is the Grand Inquisitor, not Depa. That teaching got cut short, and he gets exposed the very first time they fight and gets worked, and the second time worked, and the third time worked, but he shows a little something. And it's not until he sort of, well, she's gone now, but in the words of Luminara, he lets go of all his attachments. It's not until there's no more fear of protecting Ezra, because Ezra's dead, that he has that moment where it's, that's your ass. And you know that Isaacs is dead. British people always die.
Sorry, Sean Bean. I mean, it's true.
Oh, that's why I stopped watching Game of Thrones. I was like, I'm such a mark for him. I was doing a play in London years ago called This Is Our Youth, and he was doing Hamlet next door, and I called in sick one day just so I could go see Hamlet, because it was Sean Bean, man. I was like, Patriot Games.
Yeah, I'm really sick. Is that Hamlet in the background? No,
Straight up. And the
crazy
crowd
guy
was
yelling
hot.
at
They
him.
found out I was there. They were pissed too. But I had to see it because he's a fantastic actor, and I wasn't familiar with the books of Game of Thrones and Star Wars talk, awesome. But I saw him on the show. I was like, oh, I'm watching this show. And then right at the end of season 1, I literally was like, and we're done. If I
was so
like you as
pissed.
an actor, you're screwed. You're
I
getting
was so
killed right
pissed.
away.
The other thing I wanted to ask you as far as with Kane, because you just mentioned a big arc with him, how he discovers, like you said, the Inquisitor is the one who teaches him how to fight.
Yeah.
He learns all this, because there's that moment in the season finale to where at first when I saw it, I was like, no, he's not tuning into the dark side. Oh wait, no. It's like that scene in Rocky 3 when he's fighting Clubber Lang, and it's just like, he's like, oh no, he's not, he's getting mad, and he walks up to him, and that's what happened to Kanan. But now there's this new arc. Already you're seeing it in season 2, and Filoni's words himself is that season 2 is going to be like the Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, much
of
darker.
Rebels.
Much darker.
Without we know that Filoni's a Sith Lord and he's always watching. So without getting you in trouble, what things can you tell us about what we're going to see the crew go through in season 2? Is there any people that we might see that we might?
I'll tell you more than Dave will tell you. They're not gonna- if they fire me, they'll get James Arnold Taylor. He'll sound just like me. Like Dave said, The show, I mean, if you just look at last night's episode, just the look is much, much darker. The lighting is darker. You can see a lot of the atmosphere, things like that. So, some of the characters are going to have good things happen to them. We're going to learn a lot more about Sabine, like they sort of teased in the trailer. And I told people last year, I was like, don't think it's just a girl that they're selling for action figures. Like, there's a plan. We knew about the plan before season 1 started, so we all had confidence in it, but not in my speaking ability. But with Kanan, it's much more about him. So the highs that he hits at the end of season 1 will be balanced as Bruce Lee would want them to be. So he's going to have, if you want to say he passed one of his Jedi trials in season 1, I would agree with that. You could argue he passed 2 of them, and you could maybe get away with that. At the end of season 2, a trial is complete, and everyone will know exactly which one it is, and it's the kind of thing that sort of makes or breaks you as a Jedi. I think I've never, to my knowledge, seen a Jedi have to endure what his character is going to have to endure, and how it's going to affect not only Ezra, because it's the master-student teacher, but the relationship between him and Hera, which I know a lot of people like speculating on it and discussing. And if you saw the last shot of last night, it was beautiful. You could see her
it was great.
touch her forehead against his, and she could see that he was hurting. Well, there's going to be a lot of hurt and a lot of pain. So this is Disney XD, which they designed for more mature boys, but when the show came out, we sort of debuted on Disney Channel because XD was still a philosophy as opposed to an executed scheme with programming 7 days a week for it, and it's still not there. But this one is definitely, if you're a 4-year-old girl, ask your dad first, because there's much more real stuff going on, not just for Ezra, but like I said, Kanan, it's life-changing kind of stuff, and I haven't told anybody this. But it literally is life-changing stuff. He will have to learn how to be a better Jedi, or it's game over, basically.
And one of the things you mentioned in the last 2 episodes, one of the things, and I loved season 1 so much, it's hard to believe that I'm really even more into season 2, because you mentioned...
It's better, man.
It is, but even from a technical point of view, because like you were mentioning last night's episode, there was, Mark and I were talking about this too, it felt like a great late 90s horror film, the creepiness of it.
Yeah.
And in the episode before that, the sandstorm.
That's Das Boot, right?
I said
yeah,
this
you did.
feels like Hunt for Red October.
Yeah.
We were
Okay, and
watching
Red October is Das Boot.
Yes,
basically.
exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like
German
the way,
film, check it out. Jürgen Prochnow in it. Super
The
cool.
way-
Wolfgang Peterson, baby.
That's right.
the way Filoni and the technical directors and everything are now utilizing environment
Yep.
and atmosphere
Yeah, man.
on top of the storytelling.
Yeah.
Like it just adds so much.
And they don't
to
do it in a gimmicky way, man. That's
Yeah.
not what pushes our story forward. It's always character driven, right? It's just they're going to have an advantage in a sandstorm, so they're going in a sandstorm
Yeah.
because that's what they're trained to do. And they live in this desert, and these guys aren't from that planet. They just shot themselves down. So it's always organic. There's a ton of that. I mean, the end of season 2 is where they send us what we have to deal with, the special characters that are there with us. It's game over.
I'm so excited.
I'm super
They won't
excited.
let us see the last episode of season 2 until it comes out, and that's going to be on Dave's order because it's so beautiful and special and epic and awesome. But just building up to that, I mean, there's way more. I'm not going to say way more, but there are more legendary characters to come that some you've seen in season 1 and some you have not seen yet. Good. And there's new characters as well. There was a shot in the last teaser they released, and Sabine challenges a Mandalorian to one-on-one combat. And that character will have a cool presence in the show and in the show's future. And the actor playing the role is a working actor right now whose name I can't say, but he's highly capable. And if he wasn't highly capable, that character would be a one-off instead of a plan for the future. And when people see, and this is a completely new character, and this episode will come out fairly soon. I think it's like 6 or 7. It's when we get those guys, like when we got Jason Isaacs, when we got this guy, when we get really capable people who can just chew up meaty dialogue. Dialogue nowadays is very streamlined, right?
Yeah.
Like as the visual has taken over, there's less and less words, right? Like the Charlie Chaplin speech in the Dictator would be like 3 sentences in today's world. It would be like a wonderful adventure, cut, and that's it, it's over. But in Star Wars, there's still room for that if you have actors that love to chew it up. And a theatrically trained actor is always going to want to chew up a monologue.
Look at David Oyelowo, man. What he's done so
I mean,
far.
what
look,
he's done with
the fact that
yeah.
he hasn't been like, thanks guys, I really love doing season 1, but I'm out of here and you'll find someone else. Like, he's the man, okay? Like, he is the man. He makes choices in the films he does today that none of his peers, forget can they or can't they, I'm sure they could, they don't have the guts to make the choices he makes on camera. He makes risky choices the way Robert Downey Jr. made risky I'm not saying Tony Stark was risky choices, but if you watch early in his career,
Right.
he would make risky, sexy choices, and that's what David does. And to have him play a character like Callus is a huge part of our show. He's not just the heel that chases us from time to time. In season 2, you'll see a completely different side of him, and in the future that they have planned, he's in our projected future as well. Like, you don't waste David's
We were just
talent.
talking about
Yeah, we were
Callus
talking about
yesterday.
that.
So,
He's
that dude's not
awesome.
even intimidated by the Inquisitor at all.
No,
It's
he's
like,
not.
this is
But
so
with the
cool.
new ones, he's just kind of annoyed by them at this point. But
You'll see the road that he goes on. They treat him the way they treat a member of the Rebels as far as the amount of character and story that they give him. I mean, it's basically
great.
a Callus episode. You know what I mean? Which is unheard of for animation. Like, it's not going to be. Like, I guess they gave Butters an episode in South Park every once in a while. But they're not going to give the bad guy. You know what I mean?
Well, I have just kind of a loaded question here, but I think that in regards to how many seasons that Rebels could do the reason I ask this is because if you look at
You guys just want Endgame.
no, but it's not just a matter of Endgame, because if you look at the way that the anthology films are planned out here,
Yeah.
and we're gonna have, we know, and even Kiri Hart was asked at Celebration, like, she said, we're aware that Rebels takes place around the same timeline as Rogue One.
Yeah.
Like, so you would assume that someone, even if a character doesn't necessarily pop up from Rebels in Rogue One, you hope someone would be mentioned, because these are the
That would be
band-
cool if they did,
and these
for
are the-
sure.
this is the band that kind of helps that out. But you guys will be in like season 3 of the show when that movie comes out. So we assume something's going to line up. The question is,
If people still love us. People still love us.
you guys will still be in season 3 by the time we
Then
get
it's
next year.
been $4 billion to cancel us.
Right. But the thing is that because of this new canon and the way that the
He
history
wants to
is-
know if Felicity Jones is Sabine. That's what he's
Well,
beating around the
that's-
bush.
no,
dude.
I'm going past Rogue One at this point. I'm going past it because when it's over, big things will happen in Rogue One, and we know that
Yes.
leads into Episode 4. The question is, how long because Clone Wars could go as long as they wanted to for a while because
Yeah.
they were the only game in town. How long do you see Rebels going? How long do you think is the amount of seasons you think it could work, or maybe is too much, too little from the storytelling aspect?
I'd say for me, and this isn't a Disney plan or a Lucas plan, I think we have 6 seasons that would make logical sense. Not each one being a year. I'm not saying it's the same amount of time between each season. That said, I think their plan is somewhere between 5 and 7, closer to 7.
Okay.
And as long as they want to do it, I'll do it.
What about Kanan as a live action character? But he's so
Man, I would
popular.
love to see that happen.
Would you want to play him?
Probably not. I'm pretty much retired, man. I'm a stay-at-home dad. I take my daughter to jiu-jitsu, to boxing, to ballet.
Which some would argue would uniquely qualify you to play a, Jedi.
I like wushu too, man. My godfather's Bob Wall. I didn't learn how to throw a football. I learned how to beat up a quarterback.
Well, apparently even your daughter can kick my ass. Like,
my daughter can kick my butt, bro. Don't take that personally. Look, it would be the one role that I would ever consider if the age worked and the timing worked and it was something that they wanted to try. But even then, it would be a stretch. Like, I don't leave LA, man. I didn't go to New York Comic-Con because I was like, just take Sarah.
Right.
I'm like, I don't want to be on a plane for 5 hours away from my kids. I want to be home. I went surfing this morning. I took a surfboard shot to the side of the head at like 6:15 a.m. when I got finished. I can't do that at New York City Comic Con. Right. I can do it at San Diego Comic Con, so I go there. I can do that at Star Wars Celebration in Anaheim, so I go there. I can go surfing right from Disneyland. But I don't, I really like being home. I feel like my earning years, my big time hard work, let's go to Australia for 6 months years, those are those are long gone behind me. And I'm pretty sure they only filmed Star Wars in London. So I don't know where they filmed this one, but I'm not trying to go to London for months.
Is there someone that you could see that's out there right now that you could think could play Kanan in live action?
At my age, or
Well,
I know
let's say-
people are
because
saying
Kanan's in
that
his
Max
30s.
could do it, but I
Oh,
don't.
Max,
I don't think
like
that
later
Max
on.
is playing. I don't think he's playing Kanan. I don't know anything. but
Right,
I don't,
Max
I
von
don't think
Sydow. Of course, there have been rumors. If you do the side by side, it looked like. At one point, I thought so too, but I actually think he's playing a character from Aftermath. Is personally my
Yeah,
thought.
we
of
talked about
Max
that,
von Sydow.
yeah.
But no, I guess because Kanan.
I'm just waiting for Needful Things, the sequel. I just want to see him play Lucifer again.
Creepy Stephen
'Cause
King movie.
That movie was so dark and creepy and
Yeah.
awesome, and you laugh, but if your mom was there, you'd be like, "Oh no, that's not."
So you said
It's
Mad,
that
I
movie.
thought at first I thought you said Mads.
No,
So I
no,
thought
no,
Mads
not-
Mikkelsen
no,
is-
Max.
is
Max von
Kanan?
Sydow,
What?
I think.
I don't. So this age, if he's rocking the ponytail, I don't know the good looking long haired guys anymore. But like some of my favorite actors, I mean, I love Lee Pace.
He's great.
I think he makes really cool choices, and that's not a role that he's gotten to. Like he was great in the Lord of the Rings movie. I don't know what they did to his voice in Guardians, but that was tripped out. But he's one of my favorite actors. There's a lot of guys that can pull off a Jedi. You just have to find someone who respects it, who understands the philosophy, like the samurai philosophy behind the Jedi. I do, because my godfather was more into Eastern philosophy than Western philosophy. So that's cheating. I got the references when I saw it because those were the only references I knew. We didn't go to church on Sundays. We fought. And we would do gardening for an hour before he would let me train because he thought that was balance. But he trained with Bruce when Bruce came to America. So these were things that were important to him. So as long as you get somebody who at least respects the world and will dive 100% into it, let Sam Witwer play Kanan.
Oh,
He
man,
would kill it.
Sam-
and he'd be a
yeah.
lot sexier than me.
So Sam should be in a Star Wars.
I'm
movie
telling
for
you,
us,
man,
yeah.
he knows it back to front. He respects it. He's a highly qualified actor.
Yeah.
When he does a voice, a lot of voice actors lose the acting, and it just becomes a voice, and then it's just a voice director saying, "Can you come up at the end of it?" Because they don't realize they're asking a question.
Right.
And Sam is the kind of guy who can literally apply all of his tools to any voice that comes out of his mouth,
So
and
good.
it's
Yeah, he's
sick.
really great.
It's sick. So shout out to you.
Yeah,
bro.
last question before we move on, because I do want to talk about Kanan issue 7 here. But last, you mentioned as far as Comic-Con, and you said, "Oh, just send Sarah," and you're of course talking about your wife, who's now part of the show, and she made her debut last week. John and I, by the way, talked about in depth last night's episode. If you want to check our Rebels recap, go and watch that. It's on the site right now. It's on
With
the
David
YouTube.
Griffin as well joining
Yes,
us.
David Griffin was on as well too. Now, Sarah joined the cast. I thought she was going to play Mara Jade type character.
Yeah.
There was a rumor going out there. For
Oh,
a
there
while.
were a ton of them. Yeah.
I still think that I still saw, and I said it on the show last night. I still think there's a goodness in her. I may be wrong, but I still see something in there.
You just like Sarah.
She was. I'm telling you, see, watching that, she. You were talking before.
You
about
can tell she has
actors.
fun with it. Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
and a fan as well too. And like you said before too, you bring in this talent that they understand it, they get it,
They
and
get it.
you got that from her from the Seventh Sister last night. Brent.
100%.
Man, can you
Ezra's a mouse and she's a cat and she's not
Yeah.
hungry. She just wants to play.
Yeah.
She just wants to play. She's not going to eat him. She's just going to go, okay. No.
When she picks
Right.
up his lightsaber,
It's great,
yeah.
man. She just gently pulls him back with the force. He's like,
Yeah.
boom, and belly down and just gets, I mean, she just plays and has fun and just clowns the fifth brother. I mean, she owns
Oh,
the
yeah.
fifth in
You
the,
really
in the
do.
first episode. She's like, just go kill something while I think for a while.
You guys are gonna fight in this show, right?
You'll definitely see them fight. You're definitely going to see them fight. Yeah,
have to.
that wasn't casting on accident.
Yeah,
You'll
and-
definitely see them fight.
Good, and you met with the brothers, and so Dave.
And you'll see Ahsoka come in and handle some business.
That-
Well,
All right,
we saw some stuff in the preview, right, with Ahsoka and them, which just got
her
us all going, "Oh, you're a
And I
time."
think
but
it's
they
gonna be
didn't show
similar.
any of her fighting, though,
They
did
showed
they?
it quick. They
Oh,
showed it
did
quick.
they?
They
showed
showed the
fighting
two of them
two-
heard lightsabers turning on, moving towards
Yeah.
each other.
And she
and
was-
then
Oh,
stuff.
I didn't
yeah.
know they gave you
Yeah.
guys
See,
that.
see, I think it's going to be similar to when you guys went up against Vader, where and you had said this at a press conference, like, it's Vader, man. I think it's going to be Ahsoka just smacking them around.
Yeah, I was gonna say, don't think Ahsoka's gonna get owned. Yeah, Ahsoka's,
Yeah.
I would say, like top 3, 4 as far as fighting combat skills Jedi of all time.
Yeah,
like
she's like the number one contender.
I put her at that level. Like
Yeah.
if you're gonna have a Vader fight, you want it to be with the number one contender, and it's Ahsoka.
Right.
You know what I mean? It ain't Luke. It ain't Kanan. Kanan gets whooped on. But Ahsoka is, I mean, her story, like if we say Luke Luke's greatest power is his selflessness, his willingness not to fight. Her greatest strength is relentlessness.
Yeah.
She never quits, ever. No matter how beat down, she's up again. Beat down, up again. The council betrays her and turns against her. Beat down, up again. And she's still kicking. So it's when she comes in, time stops. Music stops. It's not necessary until the fighting begins again. Let's just let Ahsoka have a moment on screen. It's really epic.
It really is, and I wanted to thank you as far as answering all our questions with Rebels, and it's very exciting that you were able to share these details of where we're going to see, the tone in general. One of the things, by the way, I don't know if you guys saw this, and I wanted to address it because someone tweeted at me. Dave Filoni last night had said in like these after videos that they do, he made a very interesting thing, and Filoni loves to tease.
Oh, yeah.
And he says that, well, they mentioned the Grand Inquisitor. He's actually someone that you've seen before. He was in the Clone Wars. You just didn't notice it. And Freddie's like, yeah, I know that. But like, so I'm thinking like, who is he? Who is he? Like, I had asked Filoni in 2014, him and Kimberg. I said, is it the brother from the Mortis episodes in Clone Wars? He's like, oh, no one's ever asked me that before. Not a yes or no. That's it.
It sure seems like it.
It sure looks like him, but
Yeah.
I mean, I don't. I'm not going to ask you who it is because you're not.
I won't tell you who it is, but I will tell you this: that question gets answered in an episode that takes Kanan to an entirely next level place.
Okay.
And everyone will sort of get to discover it at the same time Kanan does, which I think is why a lot of people can relate to him, is because he's not a Jedi with answers. He's sort of figuring those answers out with us.
Yeah.
And when he pulls it off, he says stuff like we would say, like, you never hear a Jedi talk trash. Like, you never hear Anakin own somebody and be like, get up, son. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's not going to do that. He was more disciplined.
Right.
And this guy, says what's on his mind. He gives us the answers that we want to say. So when that episode happens, and it's not early in the season, remember, we got like 22 episodes, 23 episodes this year. Yeah. It's closer to just past the halfway point, and it's an epic moment for Kanan where he learns exactly what type of Jedi he thinks he's going to be, and that question gets answered quite specifically.
Oh, it's phenomenal.
Quite specifically.
Okay, so
That's exciting.
That was really exciting. Now, another thing exciting is that, Mark, what's up next?
Well, I wanted to talk about the Chewie comic, but since Kanan's here,
I love Chewie. I said he's the only Spanish guy in Star Wars.
we'll get to your south of the border friend.
Or Jimmy
after
Smits. I'm sorry, Jimmy
we
Smits.
talk about Kanan issue number 7, which just came out. Christian, you read it.
I did.
Do we finally get to see Kanan go surfing?
No, you don't see him go surfing, but
I took care of that.
Yeah, it was great. Greg Weisman last week told me a little bit about this issue, and it didn't disappoint. He's talking about the in depth with Delva, with his master. It's Delva. I always mess up her name. Depa, and you learn more about Depa in this particular issue. But it goes back to where Kanan was a Padawan in the Jedi Temple, and learning about Kanan in the Jedi Temple and how he became to be the Padawan of Depa and how he was chosen. There's a cool shot, by the way. There's one panel where he's walking, and in the background, you don't see the face. There's just a particular Jedi walking with a droid. It's Anakin, and he's walking with the droid. It's just like who's there. You see, Greg had said you're gonna see characters from the past, some classic characters, and you certainly do. It's a great issue. I love where he's going. You learn more and more about Kanan, about how he ticks. I recommend. This is one of my favorite comics right now. Is the Kanan comic. The Star Wars comic has picked up really well. Vader's getting a little better. Shattered Empire is done now, but Kanan right now, especially if you're a Rebels fan, you're a Clone Wars fan, this is an issue. This is
You've been
a
raving
series.
on this
I love the
series
series
from
I love the
issue
series.
1.
Greg
I haven't
Issue
read
1.
7 yet.
Seven
I
just
read them
came
to my
out.
daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't read it yet.
Yeah,
I'll be at Universal Comics. My man Kat purchasing it soon.
Yeah, it's great. So
Studio City.
You have to buy your own comic?
I did.
Wow. I just walk in and pick it up and be like, are you going to stop me? It's me. This
Do
is me.
something. I wish you would.
what's next?
No, I have not done that.
Well, you will have to pay for Chewie, issue number
Yes.
2, which also is on shelves this week. Christian, what did we learn about everybody's walking carpet?
It's just like a Saturday morning cartoon to me. It's you love Chewie, you love watching him, but it's like
He's cooler in Infinity 3D or 3.0.
I just don't think he needs his own
His power
comic.
set's better.
To me, it seems like I mean, it seems like a little bit of a money grab to put Chewie. It's just like, okay,
Who's
now
the Captain Planet kid in the first cell right there?
That's totally a great.
is that
you
hard?
Totally
Great.
nailed.
Yeah, no, she's the kid that she basically is on a run on this particular
She
planet.
loves trees.
Yeah, she's
She
running.
looks like an
from-
environmental protector.
She kind of is.
It's like one of those
but-
people that hangs out in the corner and like accosts you with their flyers, like help Greenpeace.
yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. I don't love. The artwork's fine, and the story itself is just like I said. It's just if you just want everything Star Wars or Star Wars, fine, pick it up. But it's nothing that kind of I think furthers the story.
What's the
along
what's the
Ultimate Universe.
timeline? Like is it before or after
They
A
don't
New
really
Hope?
make it too clear, but I think it's after 4. Like he's on like a pit stop somewhere.
Because keep in mind, did he get a medal? He got a medal
He
after
did.
New Hope, so
You know
he's just on his victory
the
tour.
funny thing is that
He's
people
on
don't.
his
yeah, he's
people
wearing
don't-
like the
yeah.
Tour de France yellow shirt. He's just walking around
Before the
pimping it out.
comments come in, there's no we never got a medal. Well, if you read Greg Rucka's the young reader novel that came out of The Smuggler's Run, they clearly say in the very beginning that Chewie got a medal. So just let
Yeah,
everybody
but
So
know.
what, they mailed it to
that
him?
is the biggest retcon cop out of
Hey,
all time.
hey, it's
Chewie
canon.
got screwed
Hey,
out of his
no, he
medal.
didn't.
We know you did
Not
it.
anymore.
Don't try
New
to
canon.
retcon it
New
now.
canon. Okay, now last thing in the canon world.
There's a new trailer for Star Wars Battlefront, the video game that everybody's losing
my
their
God,
mind
cool
over
that
the
is.
images. And the
great.
beta testing came out a couple weeks ago, and everybody really loved playing it. In this trailer, you really get up close and personal with a lot of the combat scenes, whereas the previous trailers, you were a little bit more in the distance, seeing the scope of everything. Here, you really get face-to-face with characters that we know and love. The coolest part of the trailer to me, you see Boba Fett fly out of the damn Sarlacc pit.
Well, over it.
Yeah, over
it.
And he says that's not going to happen
That's
again.
not
It's-
happening
To
again.
me, that makes me go, well, wait a minute. So this is so. I know that Battlefront's been murky with canon as far as like because the actual planets themselves are canon, but there's not storyline in it, so there's no storyline as canon. But when you have Boba Fett say that's not going to
That's
happen,
not gonna happen again.
we're going to assume that Boba Fett gets out of the Sarlacc pit, right?
John Wayne beat cancer. Boba Fett beat. I'm telling you, when you're a cowboy like that, there's not a lot. They make the doorways smaller for you, so you look big. Like that's Boba Fett walks tall, man. I'm
I
not
agree.
worried about the Sarlacc.
Anyone
pit.
think he's not getting out?
No, he's getting out. He's absolutely going to get out.
I've
and he
seen
probably
enough
got out
fan
a long
art. I
time
know
ago.
he got out.
We saw enough that, and we saw that one episode of Parks and Rec with Ratatouille.
Yeah, with Patton Oswalt.
Patton Oswalt doing his thing. It starts with a hand, a Mandalorian hand.
They did that on Marks and Rec.
Oh,
That's
No,
great.
you did not
great.
see that?
I
Oh,
don't
you
see
gotta
much
see
TV.
it.
If you
man.
have not seen this, they have an episode of Parks and Rec, and you can find it
It's
on
in core
YouTube.
improv, all improv.
It's all improv. What they do, they've got Patton Oswalt, who's plays
Who's
this one
great.
guy,
It was
who's trying to do a
super, super
filibuster in city council with the rest of the characters, and they tell him just riff. And he starts to go for about 8 minutes
Easily.
straight, talking about mixing Star Wars with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, with the X-Men, with all, and he
That's
just
great. He
goes
can kill that
on.
world,
It's
too.
He sure did.
killer. Check it
Yeah.
out if you get a chance. This trailer for Battlefront is good. It's good. I watched it. I
to see
liked
the
it.
Emperor.
Yeah, the Emperor fighting Luke, and that's
Yeah.
when I went, "This ain't canon."
Yeah.
But if the trailer were not
It's all
talking
right. I
about
killed
though,
Vader with Ezra in Disney's
Yeah, there you go.
Infinity. I had to get revenge. He almost cut his throat.
the trailer we're not talking about though is my favorite trailer to a video game ever. It's that one. It's for Battlefront. It's the guy sitting in his office. And he's
and
looking
the-
at the toy of
And the
R2D2,
X-Wing
and,
comes
and-
up.
and he's
Yeah,
thinking
that's
about
great.
memories of him and his best
You
friend.
love
with
it because
Star
that's
Wars.
that guy is us.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, that's exactly it.
exactly right.
And I'm watching that, and
Meanwhile,
I'm
all
getting,
the 12-year-olds are like, "That's stupid. We gotta see some gameplay."
I love
I
it.
was getting goosebumps
Of course.
watching
He
it.
stopped when I was watching it. So he goes,
Because
"I
you have
love
that
this."
same R2 at home somewhere.
I
You
do
just- yes.
somewhere. It's
But
like-
12-year-olds are
It's
like, "Nah, get
You
that
know
out."
who that guy was?
I wanna see gameplay now.
That guy was a 34-year-old male buying Star Wars.
Or Taggart from Beverly Hills.
Or
Cop.
Taggart. Or
yeah.
Taggart. Yes.
Okay, now that's everything in canon. That was a very very special segment again, Freddie. Thank you for doing it. Now
You're
normally
welcome for the specialness.
yes. Now normally we take Twitter questions, which is everything all over the Star Wars universe, anything you want to ask. But because we had Freddie on today, we asked you guys to submit your questions specifically to him. So on today's episode, we are going to have all of your questions from the council out there to Kanan here today.
Well,
Mark,
not
what do we
all
got?
of them. That would take a long time.
With every single,
Every-
Freddie knows.
all
He's heard
700
every-
of the tweets.
Yeah,
Yeah,
every single-
you guys tagged me on most of them, so I saw your
No,
questions.
we
so.
picked a handful. We
Get
picked
your
a handful.
tauntauns cut open. We're going to be sleeping here tonight.
Yes.
Our first question comes from Jason Mortio, and he asked, is there any era or time in the Star Wars universe that Freddie Prinze Jr. is interested in besides Rebels?
Oh yeah, I mean, I mean, I loved the original trilogy, but I got to sort of relive Clone Wars with my daughter, and the whole Asajj Ventress, Obi-Wan were sort of attracted to each other, but it'll never work, so neither one of us are going to go that way. I loved that time frame. I think that was season 4, season 5, right after Maul got made a comeback. If you haven't seen it, I don't want to spoil anything.
Yeah, they know he's back.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, he made it. He was in Clone Wars. Strong character. But Sam Witwer again. But yeah, that was probably my favorite time, because my daughter and I literally reenact scenes from Clone Wars. That's what we do.
That sounds. I just want to come over and have a tea
She has a
party.
lightsaber and she kills me. That's basically how it goes.
All right, what's next?
Sean Gallagher writes, do you think Kanan will ever be seduced by the dark side, even if his intentions are pure and just?
I don't think so. I think him and Anakin are very different species, very, very different beasts. Anakin was the chosen one, and that's a whole different type of pressure to live up to, whereas Kanan's pressure is just don't die today. So he had a bit more on his shoulders, and you can say, well, Kanan's the inception of the rebellion, but he's a piece of the rebellion, and he doesn't even really want to be a part of a larger rebellion. He wants to keep things small and comfortable and a little tighter. So I don't see him falling prey to the same type of temptation that Anakin did.
All right, well, we kind of touched on this earlier, but I guess we can let Connor McGinty ask you, if the character of Kanan was ever to be used in a live-action film, would you want to play it?
I mean, yes, and we'll repeat it. It would be cool, but there'd have to be a lot of things to go right for that to happen.
The bottom line is you can grow a mean ponytail if you had to.
Yeah, but man, it's so much easier just to shave it off.
All right, next one.
Okay, Fabian asked, did you had all the information about Kanan's backstory when you started to voice the character?
Yeah, don't think for a second that Filoni doesn't give us an entire history lesson. Forget before the show started. Before every single episode, we know all about the world we're going to be on, its inhabitants, its economy, crap that you don't want to know, and for some reason it all starts to help. So before we ever began the pilot, we were there for a good long time, just doing what you guys do, talking Star Wars.
How intense is it? Because I kind of liken it to like a quarterback when he goes to a professional team, is you just have to learn the playbook, and that's what the bulk of training camp is. Like, how long does it take you to get to know that character?
That's the technical side, right? So if you already play quarterback for a while and it's a similar system, it doesn't take you that long. So for me, I got there. All I needed was, who is this guy? I don't need to know your tricks. I was a money giver. I paid for your tricks. I know your tricks. We're good. So, those types of notes are further, what is it? Few and far between for me. Because I've gotten to live in that world for so long. I don't know if that answers the question.
Well, it wasn't even from Twitter. That was just my question.
Yeah, but stop hogging it up. Yeah.
All right. We'll let somebody else have the floor, and that somebody else is Kylo Ren. Thanks for taking a break from Star Wars: The Force Awakens.
Appreciate it, man.
Tweet us: are the crew members of the Ghost going to die at the end of Rebels? That is a Kylo Ren.
That's a little bit of a
Kylo
blunt
Ren, yeah.
question. I mean,
So, Kylo was clearly a fan of Clone Wars. People get slaughtered in every episode. I can't answer that question. I would say that you're going to hate hearing this, Kylo, but Clone Wars got a bit dark and a bit heavy at times. And I don't know if that's what Star Wars should be all the time. I think there's a place for it. But I wouldn't say we're going to die, all of us. I won't say all of us will die.
That's a fair answer.
Maybe a couple people get clipped. Depends if they ask for a raise or not.
It's politics, Kyle. All right. Joseph Robert Fisher writes, how did you approach a character that is brand new to the Star Wars universe?
I think like an athlete, you want to do things the same way over and over. So I approach it the same way I approach any other character, which is just find out who he is, how he ticks, what he's afraid of, when he's most confident. Does he lean on people or do people lean on him? And then once you speak with your director and your writer and those people, and even the other cast members, I mean, we all throw things off each other and bounce things off each other. You get a pretty good idea of what life experiences at that point you can bring to the table to sort of enrich the character.
All right, to quote Bill Murray from Star Wars, you're doing great. We only have 75 more to go. And Gabriel Gerardo writes, "If
I'm going to be
Kanan-
paranoid like the wavy lines.
we're paying you.
You can keep your $5, man.
You getting money for this?
I love that I can quote Ghostbusters with Freddie Prinze Jr.
Bro,
It's
you-
a really fun day.
You can go 80s, 90s movies with me all day long. man.
If Kanan fails with Ezra, like Obi-Wan did with Anakin, would Kanan put Ezra down?
Wow, what a great
That's a great
question.
question.
What an awesome question. Oh my God. I mean, not this season. It would be way too hard. I mean, he literally is like a blood brother at this point. So, you know, wow, what a question. You know, I don't want to waste all the time thinking about this. So right now I'll say no, but give me some time and hit me up on Twitter, man. Who knows?
We can do a $25,000 pyramid. You can just say
Correct,
pass.
man.
if you don't
That's,
know the answer.
well, no, but that's just such a great question, man. I would say no. I don't think he's that level master yet. I just don't think he's there yet. Obi-Wan was much further down the line than Kanan.
And that was also like the last day that Obi-Wan could have put Anakin down. 'Cause Anakin was getting so
last
strong as a
day.
Jedi. Like,
For
that was
sure.
the 11th hour.
But
you know?
but make no mistake, Ezra is definitely on a route to be stronger than Kanan. That's for damn sure.
The kid's got potential.
Let's do 3 more, and then we'll.
3 more?
Yeah.
All right. T. Miller writes, how is voice acting for a TV show different from your work on video games like Mass Effect 3?
Well, we all get to record together, which is a huge plus and a huge advantage to have, you know, live interaction, and it's much more organic and everything just flows a lot easier. Whereas when we're in the booth, you just hope that Shepard's already recorded that scene so that you can sort of be the supporting actor and put the lead over. Like in those games as a henchman, you're basically the jobber. That's like an old wrestling term. And it's your job to make the other wrestler look great. You have to make his punches or her punches look stronger than yours by falling on the ground super hard. Like that's your job. So there were some scenes where Shepard hadn't recorded yet, and you know, Vega is not an alpha personality in Mass Effect 3. He's a beta. He's that good dog from like Looney Tunes. It's like, yeah, Spike, what do you want to do? Spike, we're going to beat up a cat. Let's go get a cat, Spike. And Shepard's like, shut up. And, you know, and gives him the smack. But that's who Vega is. He's a beta personality. He wants to please. He's a meathead. He likes working out, but he'll do what his coach tells him to do, right? He's that loyal linebacker. So, you know, it's night and day as far as, you know, the characters themselves. But when you're trying to do that and there's nothing to react off of, you're just sort of shooting in the dark, and you hope the other actor realizes what you were trying to do, and they take it appropriately.
Seems like it worked pretty well with Mass Effect 3.
Well, 2 is probably two is the best of the series. 3, I think, was a good game. 2 was one of, I think, a top 10 video game ever made. I wish I could have been a part of that one, because I was a huge fan of the series. But 3 had the third act was a mess in 3.
I hear great things of all of them. If it's anything longer than Duck
look,
Hunt, I can't.
Duck Hunt's a solid game, man. But I had too many friends that would just go right up against the screen and shoot, so I stopped playing.
You gotta stay 5 feet back.
That's right, man.
T. Miller.
That was the first
just
version
wrote us.
of God mode, was putting your gun up to the
Is it
screen.
T or
and pulling the
TJ?
trigger.
It was just T. Miller, but he wrote the previous question. So let's move on to David Stevens.
Okay.
What is the impact of other media, like books and comics, on your portrayal of Kanan?
More than you would think, but not as a direct result of them. And we touched on this a little bit. I mean, the writer of the comic happened to be the writer of our season 1, so all that information was was mushed in there, and none of it changed. The risk is, you know, creative licensing. You know what I mean, and sort of taking liberties for the sake of creativity, or just because a line sounds better. So you can't really invest yourself into all of it, because it may not be what Filoni's wanting. It may not be what Henry Gilroy's wanting. It may not be what Carey's wanting. It may not be what the script demands. And like I said, our scripts are sick. Like, we don't do line changes. We make suggestions. Like, we go, hey, that was sick. What about this? And if it works better, they take it. And if not, we're good.
Do you read any of the? I mean, because I know we talked about New Dawn and we talked about the Kanan comics, but not even necessarily stuff that relates to Kanan. But are you reading any other canon? Like John and I rave over like Lords of the Sith, that was written by Paul Kemp, which was incredible.
My buddy read that. He kept trying to get me. No, my buddy, he didn't write it. He read. My buddy was trying to get me to read it.
Oh my God, it's good.
He was like, "You have
Oh
to."
my God,
You
it's
gotta,
so good.
You got to read that one. So I'm just curious.
He was telling me on that over Dark Disciple.
And by
He's
the
like,
way,
"You'll hate Dark Disciple.
the
They kill your
author
favorite."
of Lord, we should point out everybody. The author of Lords of the Sith is going to be.
Yeah, we're gonna have an interview with Paul Kemp.
Oh, sweet, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Right on. As far as the EU goes, not since the 90s, really.
Okay. But the
Back,
new canon stuff you haven't really, besides Kanan.
not too much. I mean, I know who Thrawn is. Like, if you guys want to have a Thrawn conversation, like, you know what I mean? Like, I know who some of like the bigger characters are because he had a lot of story dedicated to him. But I haven't read a book with him in it. I just have nerdy friends who are like, dude, this would be sick.
Yeah, they're wondering if they're gonna bring him back because once Disney bought over and changed the new canon timeline, they're wondering if Thrawn's going to appear in the new ones.
That
which
would be
interesting.
sick.
so
And I want to
crazy
see him
good.
appear in Rebels, but we'll see. All right, last question.
Wherever he appears, I would take a chiss all day long. I still want Cad Bane to be on Rebels. I don't know if did he survive Grievous? Yeah, he survives Grievous. I want him on the show bad. I wish he would hunt us down.
All right, last question.
Brian Fernandez closes us out and asks, were there any moments that were challenging to voice Kanan?
Whenever you bring up real stuff, that's going to be a challenge. So season 1, no. That was dessert for dinner, dessert for breakfast, dessert for lunch. Like, what kid's not going to eat that cake? You know what I mean? I don't have to eat my vegetables. Nah, here's chocolate cake. That was season 1 for Kanan. Season 2, there's a lot more vegetables on a plate and a lot, emotionally more difficult things to deal with. The clones being the obvious one, staying at odds with Rex as long as we do, demanding Rex sort of earn that trust. I mean, there's moments where these guys are back to back in battle and trusting each other implicitly, and as soon as it's over, Kanan's looking over his shoulder. It's a syndrome. It's not something that he's going to let go. I know some people are like, Kanan, let him off the hook. Like, watch the scene again. Rex lets Wolf off the hook.
Yeah.
Kanan stares right at them and does not break his gaze until it is disgust. And he's not having it. He even says at the end of the episode, it's still not. You know what I mean? As far as trusting Rex goes, it's not easy. So, that's always going to be a difficult thing to play because Dee's so sweet. And there's, like I said, there's some epic challenges for Kanan that he gets smashed on with and some things he has to overcome and some failures that he has to have this season that were super difficult because you want them to be perfect. Being a cocky Jedi is easy. I walk around with a smirk on my face. You know what I mean? Like, I can sell that all day. It's that emotional stuff that you have to be willing to go to. And I think when I was younger as an actor, that was a scarier place because you don't want people to see you cry when you've never cried. Like, I had a lot of stuff with my dad who was in this business before me in the 70s for young people, and he died tragically. And any interview I did, any existence in this business, the first look I would get from anyone instead of nice to meet you was, oh, nice to meet you. So you're very guarded emotionally as an actor because you don't want to let a lot of stuff out. That wasn't right of me, but that's where I was. That was the place I was in professionally. And as you get older, you let shit go. Things stop bothering you and you stop crying about certain things and you have a stronger understanding. And when you have that, you can add way more to a Jedi performance. And that's what I try to do every chance they let me get.
You know what? You mentioned the stuff with you and the clones, and I gotta say my favorite moment with Kanan out of both seasons was 2 episodes ago when you guys are on the walker and Kanan is talking to Ezra, and Ezra's like, "Hey, everybody seems great. These clones seem great," and the temptation must have been there to go really emotional.
Oh,
you
yeah.
don't know, you weren't there, or to go too solid. No, look, just trust me. There was this beautiful balance between the vulnerability of the pain that he knows with the anger that he's trying to manage all at the same time. And I think it was only like a 30-second scene.
Yeah.
It's not
but it was
that
my
long.
favorite.
We
It was my
mentioned it.
favorite moment. The way you guys portrayed that.
I really love the take they chose. Don't think for a sec. We tried everything. Like, we ran the whole gambit of emotions, and there was a take where it was, it wasn't like in your face. It was more like I just let him just sort of vomit emotion. Basically, is the best way I could describe it. And so he just broke down, and it was the most humiliating. I don't even like saying that. The most humiliating, like, humble thing that I had ever done, and we didn't even use it. But if it could work, then it would have been great for the show. But we picked the take that worked best. But we tried. I tried a take where I no-sold it the whole time and didn't give Ezra anything, and we discussed how that would affect the relationship in the future. And no, okay, we can't do that. Let's give a little more emotion, and just kept adding and adding and adding. And that's Dave encourages that so much, man, so much. Ezra's going to go through the same kind of stuff this year. emotionally, and not Luke Skywalker stuff, because then that would be the same. It's not, you find out your dad was the worst human in the universe, but he's gonna find stuff out about his parents, and it's the kind of stuff that rips you apart as a fan of the show. And it rips Ezra to pieces, and he has to put himself back together while they're being chased by Darth Vader and two Inquisitors and everybody else in the universe. So it's, they go through some real stuff this year, and I'm really proud of the season so far. I haven't seen all of the episodes, but I'm really proud of all of our scripts. I'm really proud of the new actors that we get to debut this year. I mean, that Mandalorian one I told you, it's like a Sergio Leone film, the whole episode. Wow.
Nice.
I mean, even if you see that one shot, they stole that from Sergio. Not stole it, but it's a tribute to him. But, I haven't seen that whole episode yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a shot where it's like right. And you get that epicness, because that's what that episode is basically a Western, and people are gonna love it, man. It's a Western in space. It's awesome.
Well, Freddie, once again, thank you so much for joining us today. You should be, the show is phenomenal. We're all big fans, and you guys, for all the people out there for Jedi Council who had just started watching it, and hopefully that we have turned more people onto the show, and Freddie being here, more people to the show. Freddie, first of all, where can the fans find you on Twitter, and the show debut is on
Wednesday nights.
Okay.
We're on at 6 or 6:30. It's on Disney XD. You can find me on Twitter at Real FP Jr. That's just Real FP JR. You don't have to spell it out. And if you want to talk Star Wars, I almost always write back. If it's 1,000 people, I'll get as many as I can, but ask cool questions. I'll see it.
Mark, where can the people find you?
I'll respond on Twitter too. At 5150 will not Twitter and all that good stuff. This Friday I'm at the Comedy Store on Sunset, and next week I'll be at the Cap City Comedy Club in Austin, Texas, Wednesday through Saturday. Coming out and let's talk Star Wars.
Obi-Jon Kenobi.
You guys can follow me on Facebook and on Twitter, simply at John Campea. Keep your eye open for my new novel, The Pride, coming out in December, Monday through Friday on Movie Talk, Tuesdays right here on Tuesdays on Heroes, Thursdays on Jedi Council, Saturdays and Sundays on Mailbag, and don't forget to catch Christian and I on Wednesdays with our Star Wars Rebels recap show.
Yes, make sure we do that, and I will be trying to get Freddie Prinze Jr. to convince Dave Filoni to come on the show soon after the break. But yeah, guys, thank you so much once again. Catch us next week. We will. I think, is Paul next week? Paul might be next week.
Paul might be next week.
Paul might be next week. But make sure that you follow me at Twitter at Christian Harloff. Same with Instagram. All of your questions, you want to get them on the air. Hashtag Collider Jedi Council. Thanks once again to Freddie Prinze Jr. and may the Force be with you always.